Joe's Inner Child Podcast.
All right, so tell me what's been going on in the world of Michael. Tell me what's going on with your world.
So, man, that's a complicated question. We'll keep it to the business stuff. So Nine Realms has been going through some pretty big moves. We launched our campaign for our first superhero book, The Embrace, on Indiegogo here back in, I want to say March. And it did very well. We had our first campaign cross the 5-figure barrier. We're currently sitting at 13,329, I think, raised on Indiegogo, which is a fantastic win for us. The quality of the product speaks for itself. The concept of it has really resonated with people. And so that's been doing really well. And in the meantime, I've also been working on building up the brand. We have a whole bunch of IPs that are in development, as well as, we're having our first webtoon series that's being worked on, and we're hoping to get some chapters out here at the end of the summer. That's called Errand of the Sable Knight, which we'll talk about a little bit. But the big thing right now is trying to expand Nine Realms to a point where we're constantly producing content and constantly gaining revenue, so that it's a cycling entity where it pays for itself, it's self-sustaining and everything. Because the crowdfunding model is really great on the individual level, but at the end of the day, I'm just the writer of this stuff. So I don't write, draw, color, and everything like that. I've got to be able to put money forward to pay for the other collaborators' work. And so the goal right now is to get us to a point where we are having a consistent stream of revenue, where we are having these things to constantly fund these new projects, bring in this independent talent to really create a strong brand presence, and that's what we're really looking at doing right now. As I said, we've got Errand of the Sable Knight, which is our up and coming webtoon, which is looking gorgeous. The first few pages are in the process of being inked right now. They're stunning. The Embrace, as I said, first book of Nine Realms to cross the 5-figure line, and well deserved at that. That book is going to knock people on their asses. It's going to be an emotional ride. And then, Elysian Fields, we're at with everything else elevating, we're taking Elysian Fields to another level. We had a little bit of a preview with that in the Embrace campaign, where we remastered the Zero issue, and because we've brought in a new colorist, and we had the Zero issue relettered as well. And the difference, I can't even tell you, but at the same time, when you elevate that quality level and you elevate that, it's going to be more expensive, and so the costs for all the books have been going up. So we need to make sure that we are at a point where Nine Realms is a self-sustaining organism, because with everything and with everything else going on, I can't afford to keep on putting my own to be completely bankrolling it. This entity has to start sustaining itself. And so those are the big things that we've been working on here with Nine Realms Publishing here in the past few months, is really taking a look at the big picture and figuring out ways where Nine Realms can become its own self-sustaining entity, so that within the next 5 years, crowdfunding campaigns, we do them, but they're less of a way to make revenue and more of a way to get collector products out to our consumer base, and pad as additional revenue. Is just consistently being able to fund the next project and pay everyone, including myself, so that the work is worthwhile.
So obviously you talked about, you've got the Embrace, it just broke it's currently in 5 figures. Is that the only campaign you have running now, or does Nine Realms have its own crowdfund campaign as well?
So what we have going on right now is we have the Embrace, which is live. It's in demand rather. And we will be having that open here for the next month. And then we have started a Nine Realms Patreon. And so the way that our Nine Realms Patreon works is that we have created different tier levels for a dollar amount that you donate per month um to the Patreon that gives you different levels of access. So like our base levels are like at $1 a month, you get a personalized thank you message from me that says, "Hey, thanks for your support. It's really awesome of you. Every dollar counts," kind of deal. And then at $5 per month, you get sneak peek access at all of our upcoming progress on books. So like page updates, concept announcements, everything like that. Like every single time there is something new from Nine Realms, you guys are the first to see it. And like page updates and everything, you guys are exclusive to see those. Any up and coming art from projects, you guys get the people that $5 tier and up get to see them exclusively. And then, at $15 a month, I do sketch cards for everyone that's at that tier. And every month I ask you, "Hey, who do you want for your sketch card?" So I draw a sketch card at your request and we send it out to you. And then you also get access to all of the digital copies of our books at $15 a month. So like, and it just keeps going up from there. At like $20 a month, you get an annual care package of all of the Nine Realms books, all of our add-ons from the previous campaigns, plus all of the covers for those versions of the book will be Patreon exclusive. So like it'll be I'll be getting like an actual cover artist to come in and do a Patreon exclusive cover for Elysian Fields issue 0, for Elysian Fields Pyramid Gambit, for the Embrace, for whichever projects we're doing. And like it just keeps going on from there. You get an annual you get that as an annual care package on top of everything else that you're already getting. And then once you get up into the higher levels of things, you get like producer credits, the ability, and I think our max tier is at like 100 a month, and you get to pick out original art from any of our books, any of our projects.
Does the Patreon also include with those tiers and you're getting the exclusive first look, does that include the webtoons like the one you were telling me about?
Yes. So like we have Errand of the Sable Knight that's in production right now. So if you are a member of the Patreon at that $5 tier, there are I think 3 updates that showcase the Dino's progress, our line artist, on Errand. And you guys are the only ones that get to see that.
So, okay, first let's talk about the Embrace, because I want to dig into the web and the webtoon, but I want to know a little bit more about the Embrace, because I don't think that's something we had talked about in the past.
No, that happened. As you said, you had to step back for a little bit because personal health, everything like that. Things have been crazy over here. The Embrace is effectively, I'm going through a divorce. And so it doesn't matter how friendly you try to make that process, there's going to be hurt, And so the Embrace was kind of a result of me channeling that hurt into something constructive. And so what the Embrace is the story about, loss, fatherhood, and justice, where you've got this guy, Clarence Griffin, who a year ago was on his way back from like sightseeing with his kid. They got jumped. His kid was murdered. And, his whole life's kind of fallen apart in this past year. And at this point, the police have said that they don't have any suspects. There's really no chance for this case. And so they've closed it as a cold case. And so he's kind of he's given up, and he's about to take his own life when he's saved by the ghost of his child. His son David shows up, gives him a vision of the night that all this happened from his point of view, where he gets to see the people that were involved. And so now he's going around and when he comes to, he's in this kind of like symbiotic suit that's powered by his son's soul. And so together they're going around as this spectral hero to bring the people responsible for his child's murder to justice. It takes a lot of heavy inspiration from works like James O'Bare's The Crow And Todd McFarlane and Robert Kirkman had a book in the early 2000s called Haunt, that it takes some inspiration from as well. And that's really, what we're going for is this tale about justice and what have you. And it's very important to also establish that it's not, while it takes inspiration from things like The Crow, it's not revenge that these guys are after. They aren't going after and killing these people. At the end of the day, half of the persona is built by the ghost of an 8-year-old kid. So he's not going to have that pessimism or anger. It's going to be about redeeming the dad and making sure that he is okay. And as such, it's not quite to that level of violence. It's still very much at its core a superhero book, and that's what we really wanted to go for with the story. And it's really resonated with people. The design has really just gained a lot of interest. We had a lot of fan art. We ended up doing a fan art contest during pre-promotion, which was really cool to see how many people really enjoyed our design and just like drawing it.
So I love the title, The Embrace. I think that's perfect. But can you tell me a little bit more about the symbiotic relationship between the son and the father, and kind of how that looks on paper?
So effectively, the way that the suit appears is through the two hugging, and that's why it's called The Embrace. So effectively, I use the term symbiote because it's like that's like the closest thing I can think of from like mainstream media that it is. But like at the end of the day, there's not a dependence really between the two on it. But like the whole kind of concept that I wanted to have is, as I said, at the beginning of this book, we see Clarence, our main character, at his lowest point. He's about to take his own life, and he gets saved by his kid. So the story of The Embrace is this story of the son saving the father, and eventually that dynamic has to switch, because at the end of the day, it shouldn't be that way. At the end of the day, a parent is supposed to protect their child, but at the beginning of our story, the reverse is what we have. Is we have a son that is trying to save his dad and is trying to make sure his dad doesn't do this horrible thing.
I think it's really admirable that you are able to use that like negative. I've been through divorce, so I understand, kind of what it's like. Everybody's situation is different, but I think something I've always tried to do is take when I'm in that negative mind space and use that as fuel for something creative. And I think that's amazing that you did that, and it translates to in the story with a negative thing and literally embracing something that you couldn't even imagine that came out of it. And I love that idea. Now, for The Embrace, how big of a story are we talking, like scope-wise?
So the book itself will be around 40. It will be around 48 pages. The story itself is 40. And so like once you include like obviously like cover, interior graphics, and then we had the fan art contest. The top 3 guys get included in the book. Everything like that. So once you conclude that, it's 48 pages, and that's kind of where we're going to be keeping The Embrace for each book. The Embrace will be a mini series. We're expecting it to be around 5 to 6 issues. If it goes a little bit over that, that's fine, but we don't expect it to be more than 10. So yeah, like that's kind of the way we're going, where it's like each chunk is around 40 pages of story.
So you had mentioned the name of a line artist that works on that with you. Is it just the two of you that put that project together, outside of like getting the artist for the variant covers annually?
So for the Embrace, the artist that I work with on that is the line artist is Dean James, and he serves also as my co-creator, because like when I had this initial idea for the concept, and I really wanted to write the script, but I kept hitting this wall because I couldn't visualize how he looked, how the powers looked, and anything like that. And so I got put in touch with Dean, and we chatted for about it for like a solid 2 days, I think. And then I got the initial pencils. I was like, yes. And after that, it took me, I think, 2 weeks to write the script, the first draft. So like Dean is our line artist for the book. He does a phenomenal job. And then we have Paul Billick, who we've brought in to do our colors. Uh, we have SK, who lettered Pyramid Gambit. He's lettering the Embrace as well, and is doing a tremendous job on that. We've got Lee Byron Carver as an editor. Phenomenal guy. He's put in so much great creative input as far as editing the script, helping out make sure that the structure of the script is tight knit, and just absolutely spot on. And I think that people are going to be really impressed with how this book is in every single way when it comes out.
So do you think that there's any, like, for people who have read the Pyramid Gambit or the Elysian Fields, people who might be familiar with those projects, do you think that there's any similarities between those and the Embrace, or anything specific that people who, lean towards one of those previous projects might find something similar in this?
I don't think so. I think that the big thing is that they're two drastically different genres. Elysian Fields is like a neo-peplum, like arena-based combat. It's Mortal Kombat with mythological heroes. Is what it is. And the Embrace is very much more your stereotypical dark superhero story. They're two drastically different IPs, and this is kind of the thing that I really want to showcase, is the variety of stories that you would see from Nine Realms Publishing. Is not every story is going to feel like Elysian Fields. Not every story is going to feel like The Embrace. Not every story is going to feel like Errand of the Sable Knight. Every single one of these stories has their own unique identities to them. And like even things like Errand of the Sable Knight, which is our webtoon series, and The Embrace, they're both historical and fantastical, but they're also two drastically different stories as per their tone. So Elysian Fields, as we established, is like Mortal Kombat with mythological heroes. It's got this epic, grandiose scale of conflict and everything, where Errand of the Sable Knight is like reading a classical storybook. And it's far more personal in nature. It's a story about a guy trying to redeem his greatest failing as a knight. It has those fantastical elements to it and everything, as it's set in Arthurian lore and everything like that. But at the end of the day, it is such a different story. Even just down to how I wrote the script for that is so dramatically different than Elysian Fields, where you really get this sense of every story that you will find from Nine Realms Publishing has its own personality, has its own identity, and there's a story for anyone.
Did you say that the webtoon is called Arthur the Disabled Knight?
It's Errand of the Sable Knight.
Okay, Errand of the Disabled Knight. Can you tell me, did you initially view that as a webcomic, or were you, when you initially put the story together, were you kind of approaching it for the medium, the comic book medium?
So the initial concept was that I wanted to do it as effectively like a graphic novel storybook, where I wanted to get it done as like this hardcover, leather-bound book that was also like a graphic novel. And I wrote the script, and the script for just the main for the story of Errand of the Sable Knight runs at around 169 pages. It's long, and I couldn't personally finance that, even with crowdfunding, with the reach that I have. Like I couldn't. That's not something that I'd be able to achieve, because I would need around 20 grand just to get the book done, and And so what I figured instead was the books broken down into chapters, just like, as I said, like a storybook would be. And so, gotta love spam. Um, but so the idea to do it as a webtoon came from, I had been releasing the zero issue of Elysian Fields up on Webtoon, and we'd gotten a lot of positive response from that, a lot of really positive engagement from it. And I was like, you know what? This could be an interesting thing, because if we have this as a Webtoon exclusive thing, we're hitting a whole other market, and we're building some interest, and we can expand the Nine Realms brand, bring people in, build that audience on a free platform, and then when it's ready to be produced into that cover, we can take that audience and then be like, hey, you really liked the book, here it is in a hard copy format, and it's a super nice collector item, and hopefully transfer that market over, and even use it as an avenue to promote other projects, like another Embrace book or another Elysian Fields book, and things like that. And so that's the whole goal. Is I saw it as another way to approach marketing, and another way to get our stories out there and expand the audience, because that's the thing that I honestly, at this point, I need to expand the audience and get us to a point where we are able to again, goes back to that whole concept of Nine Realms becoming a self-sustaining entity, where we're constantly bringing in the funds to keep making more content, to keep making more projects. And I can't do that with the audience that I have currently. And that's not to dig on that at all. I'm super grateful for everyone that has gotten us where we are, because I mean, obviously without you, I wouldn't be here. But at the end of the day, doing a crowdfunding campaign once every few months isn't going to translate to me being able to consistently fund content.
And hopefully, I feel like the webcomic is an opportunity for proof of concept to hopefully get a lot more people on that train, and for Nine Realms Publishing in general. So outside of those, I guess, two mediums, do you think that you would approach anything else in the future for like in the near future for Nine Realms, or are you kind of focused on just those different
right
comic?
Now, I think that the focus needs to be production of our premier products. Like that's what the focus has to be, because there is no way that anyone is going to invest in any other ventures that we try to attempt if we aren't sticking by and making sure that the things that we are producing are getting out to our consumers on a regular basis, and that we establish a reliable reputation as creators. And that's ultimately what this is the first 3 years of me making comics is all about building a brand and building reliability. If people know that Nine Realms is a brand that if you put your money behind, you get your content, you get it in pristine condition, and you get it on time, that will hopefully, that goodwill will spread, and we will bring in more people. We will constantly be bringing in more people to take it off. And that's the goal, is just focus, hunker down, and get this stuff out there. Because the more stuff that we have out there, as you said, it's proof of concept, right? Like even if it's on a free medium where I'm not really making anything off of it, it's still an opportunity for people to see that we are producing content, and that if they were willing to throw money our way and help us on that journey, they have the opportunity to do so. And that's cool.
So, okay, with Nine Realms Publishing, you've got the webtoon with the Knight. You have the Embrace. You've done Elysian Fields. Is there anything else that you guys have done with that brand that we haven't spoken about? whether it be
Uh,
by you or maybe another writer or artist?
I am workshopping two IPs right now. I have the script written for one of them, and I'm in early concept of the other one. Um, there's a lot of stuff that is going on with Nine Realms, and if the next year continues to be as fruitful as this past year has been, then we will see consistently more stuff. Like I already have the script written for the third Elysian Fields book. I already have the script written for Errand of the Sable Knight is done. Like literally the only thing that needs to be done is the art. So like as we have the funds to produce it, the art will continue to come, and it'll get done. Like the entirety of that script is finished. Like and we're constantly pushing. The Embrace. I just started the script for the second issue. I'm already 10 pages in. Like these are the things that you've got to do when you're in this position, because your first year or two in, you need to be putting out steady content and delivering on that content.
When did you first start Nine Realms Publishing? Because I think you had already established it when we initially first talked, which I think you and I met maybe a year and a half ago now, something along those lines.
It is about a year and a half, and frankly, I established Nine Realms Publishing maybe like 3 or 4 months prior to us first talking.
That's pretty cool. Can I ask how long you were in like plans and prep for doing that prior to you establishing it, or was that something that you figured out you wanted to do it and you just full steam ahead went ahead and did it?
I had notions about doing stuff, but like really I didn't really start executing anything until I started it was a whole snowball process. Like I Elysian Fields, all of that stuff, it was immediate, and like I've learned a lot of lessons since then. Like you don't launch a campaign until you've done an adequate amount of pre-launch and you have a good chunk of the book to show off, and you aren't just relying on character concepts and everything like that. Like those things are great. People want to see what the interior of the book looks like, so like that's the whole thing. Is I went head first into it. In part due to the situation I was in. It was something where I could direct energy and focus and turn out something positive while everything in the world seemed to be falling apart. But now it's a whole thing of we've made such strides that it'd be irresponsible and unfair to the people that have helped me get to this point if I just fucking rolled over. And the best thing for us to do is to just keep pushing, keep fighting, and keep everything going as much as possible.
So you, with Nine Realms, are you planning that every project that you guys do is kind of from your creative point of view and your written stories, or are you eventually looking to bring in other collaboratives and other artists?
Like for right now, it's what I can afford to do. So like it's reliant on my ability to produce content. But like the overall goal for Nine Realms Publishing is to like I always saw this as an opportunity to help other creators who, like me, had these ideas but didn't have an avenue to get them out there. Like at the end of the day, trying to get pitch meetings and be taken seriously at any of the big companies is pulling out teeth, and it requires a lot more of who as opposed to actual talent. And so that's what I really wanted Nine Realms to. That's what I'm really hoping for Nine Realms to become, is this avenue for people with talent to put in their ideas and have somebody actually listen and tell them if it's good, bad, what they need to work on, and if it is good, giving them an offer to bring them on, and making sure that those people have the opportunity not only to create their own projects, but maintain the ownership of their IPs. Yeah, it'll have a Nine Realms trade dress on it. At the end of the day, if you decide that this isn't that Nine Realms is the place that you want to keep it, I mean, that's your business. We just the moment like it would just be that, you know, we retain the rights to print it through whatever our contract agreement was. But that's the dream goal. And I think you know, I think most people that get into the indie comic scene, like me, they have that same dream of, you know, creating that, you know, that bullpen feel and what have you. And I realize that that's going to be a tough thing to accomplish, and I may never accomplish it. Who knows? But you know, that is what I would like to do. I would like to get us to a point where we are bringing people on and having them tell their own stories and doing this, that, the other. But like, again, in order for us to get to that point, we need to be getting to a point where we're self-sufficient. And self-sufficiency doesn't mean relying on crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is a great source, and this isn't me putting it down, because it is a fantastic opportunity. But I do think that there comes a point where a company needs to be able to stand on its own 2 feet and be its own organism, where it isn't constantly relying on like massive spurts of income during through periodical time periods. It needs to be producing content consistently and having an easy way, an affordable way for its consumer base to get a hold of it.
So can I talk a little bit more about Elysian Fields? I know that.
Yeah, please.
So okay, so I know I haven't read it's in, so since I've moved, my Elysian Fields issues are in the big, with the rest of my comics, in the U-Haul storage box. But I wanted to know, you had talked about the story for the 3rd issue, and I know we've seen characters like Achilles and Gilgamesh, lots of different warriors. Can you tease anything that you have planned for a 3rd issue, or a 3rd, you know, okay, go ahead.
So the 3rd issue completes the first storyline. You see the finish up of a fight between Team Hades and Team Osiris, which is going to have its own special reveals and everything like that, which I won't go into. But what I will say is the latter 10 pages of Elysian Fields, Pages of the Dead, which is the name of the 3rd book, you will be introduced to a secondary team of protagonists. Or protagonist might not even be the right word. You'll get introduced to a secondary team of characters that will be focused on throughout the series, because you can't have a tournament book without having stakes in the opposition. So you'll be getting to see team. I won't reveal which team it is, but there will be another tournament bracket that will be fought between 2 teams, and the winner of that bracket is the secondary team of protagonists.
Does that mean that without, I guess that might be a spoiler, but I was going to ask if there are plans to potentially continue that universe through the lens of someone else other than Achilles.
So effectively what you would have happen is the books would start to divest in between the viewpoints of Achilles and the viewpoints of whoever the lead, whoever our focus character is from that second group, and you would have their core narratives would come to head in whichever round their teams meet. You know, because like at the end of the day, there's no point in setting up a secondary team of characters that are focused, that serve a narrative focus, if they do not face, you know, the protagonist team. And it's a way to make sure that we build up that fight, because you're going, like, you are, the goal is to get you as invested in this team as you are in Team Hades, so that by the time they come to conflict, you don't really want either of them to lose. And it becomes a very difficult thing where you're like, but but I really like these characters, but I also really like these characters. And I don't want either of them to go away. But at the end of the day, this is a tournament. Someone's gonna have to win.
Do you face those dilemmas when you're writing? Like, I really like writing this character. I don't want to stop
Well,
writing this character, but they have to die for the story, or they have to
well,
stop.
like, and that's the thing, is that at the end of the day, like, this is Achilles is the core protagonist, and the question of the moral of Elysian Fields will always go into whether or not Achilles is going to make the right decision at the end of the book. So in a way, we already know who's going to win this fight. Like, that's already been predetermined. But I'm gonna make it one hell of a fucking ride, and you're not gonna and that's the goal, is to make it to a point where you know what the outcome of this is, but you're like really hoping that there might be some ridiculous plot twist or something to have the other team come out. Or who knows, maybe you just really hate the other team of protagonists I put out there and you want them to get smothered. But like, at the end of the day, that's going to be determined when those two teams meet.
So you've got, that going on. You have, is there anything else going on with the Pyramid Gambit, or was that a?
Pyramid Gambit was the second book of Elysian Fields. So we had our 0 issue.
Okay,
We had
that's
book 1 of Elysian Field, which is the Pyramid Gambit, and then book 3, or I guess book 2 rather, which is technically the third book of the series, but it is the second book.
0.
Book 3 is Pages of the Dead.
Okay.
So Pages of the Dead continues where Pyramid Gambit leaves off.
And that makes sense, because I was so confused. I was like, I remember Elysian Fields and I remember the name Pyramid Gambit, but I couldn't think of what the story was. And now I realize that it's the same thing, which makes a lot more sense.
It's just a whole part of it, and like the whole arc has the whole first arc has a name. I won't say it because there is it contains a spoiler for Pages of the Dead. But like, when that happens, as I said, we had remastered the 0 issue for the Embrace, and we're going to do the same thing for Pyramid Gambit. We're going to go back and have the new colorist go back and recolor it, and then have the letters put back over there. So it's going, like, when we finish that first storyline, there's going to be a trade paper style book that will get crowdfunded, and we'll collect the first 3 books of Elysian Fields in one massive thing, where it's been completely remastered and just has the complete new feel of Elysian Fields on it, and that's going to be pretty epic.
I was going to say, that seems awesome. So do you have any plans? I mean, okay, let me reword this. Nine Realms Publishing is obviously your world. You've got these different projects, and you're really focused on building your own IPs and creator, like helping creators with their IPs. Is that your goal for the rest of your, I don't want to say for the rest of your life, you're pretty young, but I mean, is that your ideally where you plan to stay headed, or do you have hopes to work on any IPs that already exist?
So, I mean, I've been taking a lot of I take freelance work where I can, because like at this point, my whole thing is that the money I make from my job deals with my personal stuff. Any freelance work and what have you that I do, that goes towards funding projects. Like, and that's how I manage it. Is like, money that I get through PayPal gets dispersed to whoever needs to get paid for me to continue doing projects. Money I get from in my bank account stays in my bank account, and that's how I rationalize it. So like, I'm always down to do other works, but like, as far as like working on mainstream characters, like, of course there are characters I'd love to work on. I don't know if I'll be given that opportunity, but like, I mean, like, I think that I don't think that there's a single independent creator that can say that there is not a single character owned by a mainstream company that, if they were allowed carte blanche on how to write them, that they would they would be ecstatic to have a chance to write it. Because I think that that's the other big thing, is a lot of us indie guys, we're at this point, like, we have carte blanche on everything we do. There are properties that I think that that's the one thing that holds a lot of us back from going over to the mainstream, is just being like, yeah, it would be cool to write this character, but I don't want to play by your rules. I want to play by my rules. I want to write this way and what have you. Um, and so like that's the other big thing is like how much constraint would be put on me and my creative abilities, because I've written for other people before, and it's not satisfying when they're beating down your deck and they tell you that they don't want you to do this, that, or the other, and you're just like, well, what was the point of bringing me on if you weren't going to let me write? um So yeah, I mean, there's obviously characters that I would love to write for. The Shadow is a big one for me. Um, uh, I had a Zorro concept at one point that I thought would be really fun. I have had this concept for years about a Thomas Wayne Batman story. Um, but like as I said, man, like at the end of the day, that's just a matter of are they interested and are they going to let me write what I fucking want to write? Or are they going to breathe down my neck and be like, well, actually, you can't do this, that, or the other. And I'm just gonna be like, well, there was no fucking point in me doing this then. So,
And with Nine Realms, it's your universe. I mean, literally, it's your universe. So it's whatever you want to do. Did you land on Nine Realms after like tossing a couple other ideas around, or did you always know Nine Realms was going to be the title of your company?
it was like the third or fourth on my list. Like what I did effectively was I was going through and I was registering the LLC, and I had like my top 5 names that I had picked, and I was just going down the list of the LLC tracker. And so when it got I think it like Nine Realms Publishing LLC was like the third on my list, and when I got there, um, I was like, okay, cool. That's the best it's going to get. When it said is like, this name is available for use, I was like, fuck yeah, awesome, registering it.
Nice. So I know we've covered a lot of the stuff. Is there anything else that I haven't asked that you wanted to touch on, project wise, or any social media or websites that you'd like people to get to? I know that
I
we're
mean,
going to include like the crowdfund and the Indiegogo links in the actual articles, but is there anywhere specific you would like to direct people who are
I mean,
listening to this?
the big thing that I would like to direct people towards at this point is our Patreon. Like, yeah, we have the Embrace and Indiegogo, and we'd love your support on there as well. But like, the Patreon is so crucial right now in establishing the longevity of the brand, that like that's really where I really want. I would really like people to go take a look, because if we can get at that point where, like right now, our goal is to get us to a point where we have $500 a month coming in. Because at that point, if I have $500 a month that I can disperse out to creative teams, I can effectively be splitting that money like half and half between 2 projects and getting pages done. And like that's huge. So that way it ensures that I'm pretty consistently doing like 2 projects at a time. um and that's going to be the big thing.
That's, I mean, that's awesome, especially because like I always try to have at least 2 projects going on, because it's like if you get a little bit of writer's block in one area, you focus on something else. That's why I do writing and I do podcasting, because it's like if I get stuck on one, or if I like need a break from one, I can still stay in the other area, and those passions kind of feed each other. So
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
I feel you there. Is there anything I didn't ask about any of the projects that you wanted to mention, or just anything else that I didn't say that you never really get a chance to talk about in these interviews?
You know what? I don't think so, man. It's always a good time coming and chatting on with you about this sort of stuff. It's really cool to have to get a chance to talk to this stuff with people. So I'm just grateful for you having me here, in all honesty. Like and that's what it comes down to, is the fact that people are interested in this stuff to begin with is just super humbling to me, because it's like I think back to where I was a year ago, 2 years ago, And if I were to tell them that we were at this point where I was, getting out there and getting to talk to people about this and was building an established brand and everything, I don't think I would have believed it. So it's just, I just say thank you.
Literary Joe's Inner Child Podcast.